In this week's episode, I'm joined by Keith and Stephen, the duo behind Insights, the Stripback podcast. We chat about their paths into the trades, the realities of being an apprentice, what they look for when hiring, and how Keith went on to launch his own business, while Stephen prefers working for an employer. This episode is brought to you by Top Drawer Talent, the supply chain procurement recruitment specialist. Let's get into it. Here we go.
So, just do mixers.
No cash in hand jobs.
No.
Not one bit.
Yeah.
But is the mixer industry kind of gone now, is it? Or?
No, it's not. It's thriving, I'd say.
Is it,
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of lads would still need to sort of earn their graft through that way. Like, I mean, 'cause they can get sort of restricted on especially the big sites and industrial sites and stuff like that. A lot of lads are crying out for domestic knowledge. So you'd have a lot of people through us as well and the podcast putting the DMs in saying, look, lads, if he's got contacts there, I'm looking for a bit of domestic work. I'm looking for a bit of solar or car charger installs, because they're not getting it. They'll be working on, say, industrial projects like hospital installs where they'll be using metal containment all day. So it'll be trunking and tray installs, running single cables, and they're never going to get that extra bit of experience. So by the time they go in to do their phase 2 and they're expected to do a bit of plastic conduit or a bit of basic socket installs and stuff, that they're not getting it. So I think it's good to be able to link in with a couple of qualified lads who have a bit of extra work on and are looking for a bit of extra work, and you'd probably support it as well, wouldn't you?
Get a bit of extra experience.
A few lads come in with us, like, on weekends and stuff like that. But most of the lads aren't doing mixer now because the fear mongering is there as well.
Really,
Do you know what I mean? Where all these ads they're putting out saying Safe Electric, not insured, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Plus the young lads, the apprentices are a bit more flush than they were originally.
Yeah, they're not being badly
paid.
paid.
It's kind of gone up, and they kind of want top dollar now for.
What's the going rate for an apprentice now? Like,
I think they start out at high threes. You know what I mean? So 380 something like that.
yeah, I think I was an
It's
apprentice.
all right,
It was
like,
like
when you're living
€6 an hour or something.
It's all right when you're living at home with your ma's, like. You know what I mean?
You can't complain. Yeah.
But that's why I say to all my lads, like, you go up like maybe 100, 150 every phase.
Right.
So like, but when you're going up to 150, the lifestyle enhances as well. So
it's a fit lifestyle.
yeah, that 150 gets swallowed up.
The expectation then when you're going up that amount, what they don't realise is that when you're going up that bump, the expectation from you onto them needs to go up as well.
Yeah.
So they're not doing the same amount of output that they were doing that 6 to 12 months beforehand. You know what I mean? There's a bit more responsibility that goes with it,
Right, gotcha. And what about the podcast then, right? Like, what was the reason behind starting the podcast?
I know, yeah. Keith was an avid listener of podcasts.
Right.
I wasn't as much at the time, but I started getting into a lot of podcasts in the UK that were promoting the trades. So they were promoting electrical trades was the one that I started getting into. So the likes of Electricians podcast in the UK or Trade Legends.
Yeah.
And we were looking around and saying at the time the numbers for apprentices trying to get into there's even their first phase and then move on to their second phase and actually get in and do their after job was incredibly high, like, and the waiting lists were crazy. And I think it was turning people off, going for the apprenticeships at the time, or maybe getting to start in the apprenticeship, and to have that idea that a lot of people were making that decision to not go down that route based on numbers was crazy for us. So we wanted to have a platform there in Ireland with 2 Irish voices, not English voices, you know what I mean? Because it's
very different.
Yeah, it's different and it's relatable, where you can get 2 lads who can speak their truths, talk about their experiences, and give people an idea that it's not too different to what we went through during the recession stages.
Right.
You know what I mean? And said that there is greener grass and there is, a rainbow on the other side of it if you just stick with it,
Yeah, and it's literally just to give them a peace of mind that's not actually that bad as well.
Yeah.
Like when we were trying to get through our phases, like we mentioned that loads of times that maybe we might have to go through maybe 5, 6, 7 different companies during our apprenticeship cycle. Where most lads now doing the apprenticeships are sticking with one lad, find one good lad and finish out the apprenticeship. But then the other thing we're highlighting is, like, if you start out with like Stephen mentioned, an industrial crowd or a commercial crowd, that you still do need to dip the toe in the domestic sector as well, just to enhance your apprenticeship.
And not be afraid of that either, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't want to be afraid to think that if you've reached your limit, like as an apprentice, we would have found that, and because of the recession,
Yeah.
you know, the weight was hung over our heads to try and get the completion. So we weren't really thinking about, you know, the money aspect of it, or
wanted the
what we were
qualification.
learning, or are we getting enough of a broader scale of information
Yeah.
into us while we were working. Where now there's so much work available there now that you're nearly having lads saying, right, Chase, I've done, you know, 12 to 14 months with a domestic guy, and I feel like I've, you know, got that.
Yeah,
Exhausted the
peaked
jet.
or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
peaked at that, and I need to move now. So you've lads actually like coming up to their employers and saying, look, I'm an apprentice, and I'm handing in my notice, I'm leaving, I'm going to a different company, and I'm going to a different sector, you know.
Nothing got to do with treatment or anything like that. Just like, you know, you've got your solar renewables now, and then you've the industrial, domestic, commercial. You've so many strings.
broad,
like we might get like advertised for a job, and 80% of those guys might be industrial, which would be technically no use. Like
Yeah.
me as an employer, I wouldn't actively look for maybe a third or fourth year that's done industrial work all his career, because you're outlaying the money, and basically a first year in the domestic sector. Do you know what I mean?
Probably, yeah.
So
better
now
so-
they might have like, you know, the electrical head space.
Right.
Would you have that because they've been in the industry, but domestically, like for smaller guys like me, you know, from 1 to 10 employees, you wouldn't be actively.
But would you
looking.
agree that like if you hired a guy and you know you took him on, you've put some time and effort into him, you've put money into him, you've given him PPE and the whole lot, like, and you've had him out on site and he's gone through, say, up to phase 1, phase 2, he's coming out with phase 2, he's back on site, and he comes to you and he decides, look, you know, I want to better myself, not, you know, saying that you're not giving me everything that I need, but I just want to get into a different sector that you're not able to offer me.
Is it good to
Yeah.
get that knowledge though of like the different sectors then
Keith
during your
can tap
apprenticeship
back into that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's exactly like if you can get all that knowledge in,
in the first
like
4 years?
if
yeah?
Keith lets a lad go like and works for somebody else, but Keith's treated him well and he's paid him well, and you know the atmosphere around Keith's business is good. Well, that fella's gonna go off like and better himself, and then if Keith gets projects later down the line, Keith can tap back into that fella again and get him back in. You know,
I'm of the kind of, I'd be of the thinking that I kind of need to expand all the time anyway. So we're heavily in renewables and domestic and energy upgrades. So we're ticking maybe 4 to 5 boxes anyway.
Okay.
And then what I harp on, I think the best well-rounded electricians do stem from domestic, because you're getting the wiring experience.
Really, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
like,
when I would've
you're
been
not
a plumber-
the industrial guys are manufacturers.
Yeah.
They're manufacturing pipe. You know what I mean? So
Right,
to me, that's not electrical installation, where it is containment. It's not. I think the bare bones is in the domestic.
when
But
you're
that's
in
just me.
domestic, you all work together. It's a whole team working together, and
Yeah.
everybody is involved with that one aspect of it. Where for me, and I have worked a lot in both sectors. So one of the first companies I worked for, I was able to dip my toe in domestic, and then I got a lot of work in industrial as well. And what I found was when you go into the industrial area, you're put into teams. So you're the containment team.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
behind them then comes the wiring team, and then behind them comes the second fixing team. And you
testing,
very rarely then get to move between those teams. So
Yeah.
what you'll do is you'll get on site and you'll be installing all the conduit, the tray, the trunk, and the whole lot, like, and then the next you're off to the next site that's starting.
If you become good at one section
Yeah.
of that,
They just
you're
keep
kind of
you-
Keep it there.
You know,
and
you're
I
more
know
efficient
guys,
than
you
them.
know guys, don't you, they'll come to us like and they'll be in their 4th year and they won't be able to wire a house.
Yeah.
know
That's
what I mean?
that's the problem, like, you know.
Okay, so no industrial electricians for mixers.
We're industrial bashers
Especially
here.
want
So
a lot
yeah.
of conduit running around their house. You know?
And does it feel different now being on the other side of the mic, like being interviewed, or is it pretty comfortable for you now that you've kind of done a few?
Yeah,
You've
I
had
don't
a
know,
good few
it's-
episodes like under the belt.
Yeah, I think it was like 70 episodes gone out today, just as a little bonus short. But I think starting from where we started, I think we rocked up first. N2 Electrical Wholesalers out in Ashbourne offered us one of their storerooms, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and,
Yeah, that was upstairs in the office.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember. Yeah.
and we had the phone out in front of us, and I think it was no, start again,
I
start
think
again.
it took us about 5 hours to get a 15-minute bit of content in.
Yeah, you're not used to hearing your own voice. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I know it's terrible for the first few. I was like, oh, it's cringing. I even stopped doing them for a while because I was like, oh, do I really want to do this?
Yeah,
Crazy to think, like when you think about, like, say, so I would have been on a lot of social platforms at the start, like with the likes of LinkedIn and Instagram. So I would have had a page on Instagram originally called Insight Electrical, where I was posting a lot of what I would call creator content through the work that I was doing, like installs and light replacements, educational stuff. Yeah, and trying to, you know, pass on the knowledge to up and coming apprentices and stuff.
Yeah.
And it stems from there. Like, so I would have built up a lot of a following through that, and then utilize that following then to transfer that page then into the podcasting page.
Okay, so you're
So
well
I was building it ahead a long time. And then when I knew that I'd reached a level point, I said, right, this is a good standard number to get a good listenership.
Yeah.
Then reached out to Keith then and started the podcast from it, you know. So
Is your cousins, is that right?
Look for the A team then, just to get them there, you know. But I think it was like a Friday. I think you rang me maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. I think I was in the middle of listening to a podcast, and he rings me and he just says, just want to run something by you here. And I think it was 3 o'clock we got off the phone call then. It was like, will we start a podcast? And I said, oh yeah, sure, go on, yeah. Originally I just jumped on just as a kind of a guest and then it just snowballed then into just doing it all the time then,
that's crazy, because like when you look at, you know, building up and preparation, like the preparation is key, like when it comes to podcasting. It really is. Like, and when you think back about like the initial seed that was in my mind of building up the followers through the initial Instagram page, like I think I was listening to a different podcast there recently, it might have been Stephen Bartlett's, and there was a comment made on it as well. I think LinkedIn has 1% of the individuals that are on LinkedIn are creators, 3% of them are engaging, and everybody else is just watching, you know. So to be a part of that pool of people who are creating is amazing, and it just shows that we're at that sort of early inception of podcasting still, because was it YouTube 2-point-something billion worth of users? I think 4% of them are active.
Active, yeah. The rest of them are just dead accounts.
So the likes of yourself posting your stuff up onto YouTube, us posting stuff onto YouTube and across other platforms. It's amazing to think that you're part of that small pool of creators that's actually offering information out there to people, positive information, and giving people a bit of free, valuable advice, which I think is what everybody's looking for, you know?
There's massive growth opportunities, I think, in YouTube as a whole. But even LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is totally underutilized. Like, I think that's where I actually have the most of my followers. I think I've got like nearly 15 or 16,000 just on personal connections, not even business stuff. So it's really good. But then yourselves, right? Like, was the plan always to be electricians?
Mine was like, like in third year you would have Miss Mannion as well, so she would have been career guidance in the community college in Balbriggan.
Right. And the two is called same school
and all,
same area, same group.
I think we'd be sick of them by now. But I picked my subjects based on being an electrician. My dad knew a couple of electricians, so I kind of had a job sewn up in nearly like fourth year. Like, so I picked physics, engineering, tech graphics. I can't remember what else I picked, but it was all kind of stemmed on PPE.
What about yourself, Stephen? Did you?
Yeah, so I would have never had the mindset of what trade I wanted to go into, but my father was a technician, so he worked out in SARS in Technicon, and then that changed into biodiagnostics, and then that changed into Siemens. So he was a very technically minded individual. So he'd come home and he'd always call himself a frustrated electrician. So he knew all the concept of electrics, like, but never had the qualification. So I never really liked school. Straight from primary school, I always had to work harder to get the results that everybody else was getting. And that working harder meant sitting down during summer times with my father while everybody else was out playing and, you know, going out on their bikes and playing football. I'd sit down for 2 hours every night going over maths and stuff like that, just to get myself to a level that I needed to get to. And my father sort of got that early concept with me where, you know, he could see that I wasn't, you know, amazing academically, but he'd always say, like, our brains are a little bit different. We work a bit different, and with a bit of extra effort and a bit of extra support, like, we can get to where we need to get to. So by the time I got into secondary school, I was sort of hyper focused on something to do physically rather than academically. And when apprenticeships was sort of proposed to me by my father, it just seemed like the perfect blend of learning something academically that is going to be utilised out on site physically.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be learning something that I'm not going to be using every day. I'm learning something that I'm definitely going to be using every day, which just appealed to me. So by the time I got to picking the subject similar to Keith, picked everything that I needed, with the likes of engineering, tech graphics. I was in higher level maths then right up until I needed to do my leaving cert.
Okay.
But I was struggling at it. I was getting very, barely passed results in it.
Okay.
So by the time I came to leaving cert, then I dropped down and just done my ordinary, got my pass in it, and started the apprenticeship. And I think when I was working like straight into work straight after, as soon as I came out of school, had to start with a company. And even on the day that the leaving cert results were being out, my mother went and picked them up, and she rang me and told me the results, and I just went on with my day working.
Okay, right. And did you both made it through the leaving cert? Did you?
Yeah, both made it through. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Overall, like, what was? I know you kind of struggled academically, but what was your school experience like? Was it positive, or did you like it? Did you not like it? Like,
mine was fine. I was a little bit different to Stephen. I would be able to cram, like, you know what I mean. I'd be able to do it 2 weeks before an exam and cram it in and remember it on the day. Right. And like I would be, I'd have a very good recall on stuff that I do learn. So like if I do something on site, I'll genuinely remember it and be able to repeat it, like, you know what I mean. Right. That's the way my head works. But I wouldn't be able to, like Stephen, I wouldn't be able to consecutively study. That wouldn't have been me. Right. I would have been more on the the PE side of things and playing matches for the school. Right. Okay. Wouldn't have been too interested. Like, if we'd school matches there, we could be playing at 1 o'clock. I'd head home at 9 o'clock to get ready. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I get the day over. Like, you go home 2 classes early. Do you know what I mean? Just to get get yourself ready for the match. But no, I wouldn't have been. And look, my ma said, look, just get the leaving cert done. Right. It wasn't really a thing at the time to, leave early, leave school in 3rd year and get an apprenticeship. That's kind of only coming into it now. Right. And I think it's a good thing as well, because there's a lot of lads that we knew in school that should have been gone out there well earlier, you know. They're probably curtailing the rest of us, you know what I mean? Yeah, true. And like, a lot of them are doing well in construction jobs, in trade jobs. Yeah. Just that their heads weren't focused to school, do you know what I mean?
But you mentioned there, like, obviously the sports aspect of it, like, and there's a lot to be said for that, like, when it comes to the mental health aspect of it, especially with lads in school, like, who might find themselves struggling to have an outlet like that. Where I think myself and Keith, you were saying, we were doing the school football, we were doing local football. I think we had local Dublin representative football. So I think our whole sort of year would be based around the football, and everything else was secondary. Right. I think we'd be training with the Dublin selection squad on a Monday, training with the local Balbriggan FC on a Tuesday.
Right. School during the day.
On the school on the Wednesday. The football match was the Wednesday. Club football again, training on the Thursday, and then selection squad on the Friday, and you play your 2 matches on the Saturday and the Sunday. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that was the sole focus for us. It was just making sure you were fit, and everything else came secondary with it. But look, mental health wise within school as well, it was great to have that outlet, the team camaraderie, everything else. Like, you come in on the Monday morning then as well, like after playing football, and being able to talk to everybody and get into those social groups, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because if you didn't have them social groups in school, it was very tough and hard, to be able to manage it, Yeah,
definitely. It's a nightmare. But if you could go back now, right, what would you change in school or in the school system now? Like, if you could go back and change it, or if you could change something, is there anything that you would change?
We had mentioned that. I know, probably on a recent episode, I think we've pushed on this as well.
Touched on it a couple of times,
yeah, where I know we talk about curriculums and how it's all set up, and I'm pretty sure like years and years of more important and knowledgeable people have come up with these curriculums and how they go about it. But I really feel that the apprenticeship system needs to be linked in with the schooling system from junior cert to leaving cert onwards. And it will give an individual who's at that crossroads at his junior cert, thinking that I need to leave school now to get working, but I have to leave behind mainstream schooling completely. That can be blended together somehow, that an individual could possibly have the opportunity to start academically at least certain subjects that would be able to link in with say electrical or HVAC or plumbing, you'll be able to get the odd start and go out with them for a couple of days and work with an individual, but then keep your core subjects so that at the end of it then you'll be coming out with a certificate, your leaving cert, and you've got your start in your apprenticeship already, and it'll keep individuals, I think, motivated to stay and stay in the school environment, you know.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think you should have, like, I think in the UK you have the option, like, you do your GCSEs and then you either leave for an apprenticeship or you go on to your A levels, which is like your leaving cert.
Yeah.
But I think you should definitely, school should finish at that junior cert level for those that want to finish, and out into the trades you go. And I think that would stop a lot of lads going on to the live register then as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, do you know this, this like youth reach thing they have, like, whereas if you're like a disruptive student, you go to like I think that's, I don't know what it's called now, but I think it was called youth reach back in the day, where you go and you do these classes on like how to cook or whatever, but you'd be paid to go. But I think that ruins people in a way. I think you should be sent onto a building site to work with your peers and told that you have to work and get a skill that can contribute to society, because those are the people I see in my job now that are being kind of left behind as well. Around those lower paid jobs and unskilled labour. And then,
well, like, as a self-employed, you know, you have your business there and you're thinking, right, I'm taking on a first year. He's somebody here, like, he's at the age of, like, what would it be, 16, 15, 16. I'm coming to this guy, I'm asking for a start, but you're letting that person know as well that, like, look, I'm still doing a bit in school, I'm still getting my core subjects in, and I'm going to be picking subjects that actually match that, so you can actually go to the school and say, look, right, I've actually got a start here in an apprenticeship. He's willing to take me on. I'm going to be able to do this amount of hours. But there should be an avenue then where he says, right, well, look, you can continue to do your maths, you can continue to do this, and that will link in with the apprenticeship. Like, I mean, your English, your maths, or your tech graphics, or your engineering, you know?
Yeah, maths and English are,
but I think,
like,
like,
core subjects.
You know, third year, if you finish your junior cert, like, if you have a bad junior cert and, like, you know, and everyone knows that you're not going to participate in school. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be on the mitch, not giving a crap when you're there. I think you're feeding into, like, maybe a 2 or 3 year habit that's going to lead you into your adult life. You know what I mean? So you're getting a lad, like a lad that's coming in the first year, who's after having 3 years of bad habits, no structure. You know what I mean? And you might have parents that are not, you know, even watching it, like, they're just letting it happen. Do you know what I mean? But, like, when they come out, then at least they might be more ready, like, you know.
But as an employer, right, me myself as well included, I'd probably be, I wouldn't be inclined to actually take that person if they had a really bad junior shit. Like, if they're totally acting the idiot, like, I probably wouldn't give them the time of day, because their demeanour and everything would probably be off if you're sitting down having a chat.
See, that's another part of it as well. Like, I think a lot of students from an early age are not being diagnosed early enough with neurodivergent issues. With the likes of ADHD and autism. There's a lot of parents that are overlooking that as well, and they either don't have the money or they don't have the want and the will to be on the waiting lists that they're on at the minute through the public system of getting their kids diagnosed. And I've gone through it personally with my 2 kids, and I know how tough and how hard it is to go through that process. But when you get to the end of it, it's eye-opening. And to have your kids assessed and diagnosed early could really open up a greater avenue within school for them to be able to excel. So what you have is junior cert level, you see these kids who are considered the troublemakers, or they're considered the ones who are lagging behind and are getting these bad results. But if they were to be assessed, they probably needed a different way or a different approach at an earlier stage in their schooling that would have got them to a point where maybe at their junior cert they needed extra time maybe on a certain subject, or, you know, they needed to do it in a quiet room, or, you know, something simple. But they've got to the point where it's too late and they're getting this bad result, and their parents think, right, well, sure, there's no point in you staying on there and doing your leaving cert. You've got that terrible result there, sure, you may as well leave. And they've already instilled this psychological failure format within their head, like that they're not good enough for anything, which then I think is very hard to you know, get these persons sitting down into a room and actually letting them know that, look, you know, with a bit of time and effort and a bit of extra support, we can get you there, you know.
Then you have the example, like, of my nephew. he left school after third year. He did a couple of months in fourth year,
Right.
and then decided he was going to come work with me. Like,
Okay.
so he had it was an okay junior cert, but he knew he wasn't going to like put the world alight with his leaving cert.
Yeah,
and he's very good with his hands. His dad was a mechanic, so he had the balls to say to his mom and dad, I'm going to work with Keith, like. So he's come and worked with me. So he's done phase 2 and phase 4,
right,
all distinctions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's mathematics, and that's, you know, obviously a lot of theory and that, a lot of reading books, where he wasn't able to do it in school, but he was able to do it in a practical sense, as in when it reflected what he was doing in his job.
Isn't it great that
he's unbelievable, like.
Isn't it great that his parents were willing enough and had the confidence enough to allow him to do that and not put him under the pressure that a lot of other students will be put under, where their parents would put that extra pressure on them to do something that they want their kid to do, rather than their kids deciding to do. Like, he had a direction that he wanted to go in. It's different, I think, where somebody's coming up to their parents and they're just like saying, I don't want to do my leaving cert, but for no reason, you know.
It's just a norm, like.
Did you have to have the chats though with his parents to say, come on, we're going to take him, it'll be okay, kind of thing?
Yeah,
because it was you, they probably
I was a bit afraid, like, because I was on my own. I was only gone out on my own.
Oh, okay.
And he was my first employee, you know.
Right.
So I was, in my head, it was like, right, I'm going to take this kid out of school. There's a lot of responsibility on me to make this work, like, you know what I mean? So, kind of hand in hand, worked both ways. Kind of.
Did you tell him, like, this is the crack, like, I'm taking a chance in here, we have to make this work?
Yeah, and vice versa. His parents were like, look, we're taking a chance on you. It's our kid's livelihood we're putting in your hands.
You're his schooling now. You're his teacher.
I'm his schooling. Like, I'm gonna pave the path for his future.
Okay.
You know, I suppose working life, but like at the same time, I knew it would work with him because like he's even our in-house mechanic now. Like, you know what I mean? Because he just. You want to see, you've seen the tools he has. Like, it's just a passion for the trade. Do you know what I mean? He puts all his money into his tools. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good sign when you're taking on an apprenticeship or an apprentice or somebody to see what they do in the first couple of months, like whether they're kitting themselves out and they've a bit of love for the game, like, you know. Right. And Daniel is he's the best of a lot of them, and I think it'd be hard to keep him, like, you know, under wraps when he gets qualified. But
has he got long left?
He's another 2 years, like, but he might go travelling, he might experience things, you know what I mean, and like he might.
He's a great example then for the others coming through. Then,
if he hits that culture,
Plus, like, he incentivise him. He has his own van, fuel card, phone. Tried to look after him, you know, bonuses, Christmas, all that kind of stuff. But like when he's finished, then like my plan is to maybe, you know, kind of enhance the company. Maybe go into security, cameras, gate automation. That's it, because it's gonna snowball, you know.
It's gonna build,
That's the plan anyway.
Yeah, well, they reckon like electricians and stuff like that. I was only listening to Gary's podcast here the other day. And lads on electricians and plumbers will probably make more than surgeons in the next few years, like especially like with the rising data centers and the renewable energy sector.
There's loads of what would you call it, industry leaders, and like we ask any of them, like, what do you want your kids to, you know, become in the next 10 years? It's not like because of AI and stuff like that. They're saying you become a plumber. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're never going to lose your job as a plumber.
But isn't it amazing that, like, you know, coming out of school, you can apply for a job, paid to learn.
Paid learning,
And, you know, by fourth year, I think you're roughly on the same level as a junior doctor.
Yeah. You know, and you can probably go start your own business as well at the age, depending on what age you leave school. 21, you can start your own business, you know.
Yeah. And like what Keith was mentioned there, like, obviously us with the podcast, we didn't want to restrict ourselves either with the podcast to electrical. Like, the two of us are electricians, but we wanted to highlight and promote the trade industry, like, which is, you know, the plumbers, the carpenters, the HVAC and the electrical. And what Keith mentioned there about the plumbing aspect of things, like we said, like, water runs the same no matter where you go in the world, like, you know what I mean? So, like, I've had the experience of going to Australia and trying to get my certificate changed to the AR, Australian Recognised Trade Certificate. And it's costly, you know what I mean? And then you see these plumbers coming in behind you and it's just like, you know, straight in on the site, straight the same, like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to be said for, you know, promoting all different trades and aspects of it, because, and I know fellas that started out as electricians and actually made it to their second year, done their bit of off the job training, and decided I'm changing and moved into plumbing after it. Like,
yeah, jeez, that's I don't think I've come across that, but that'd be an interesting way to go, or even get two trades.
That was always my dad's plan for me, was do the electrical and then go straight into doing the plumbing.
Right.
But obviously the money was too good, you know. I couldn't start again.
Yeah, your lifestyle is
the lifestyle. The lifestyle.
He just wanted free maintenance on his gaff. That's all he wanted.
Yeah, probably was. Yeah, I mean, you know, you have kids early, like, you know what I mean. You don't have the luxury, you know.
Were you about waiting long then after you came out of school and done the leaving search for jobs, or like was it pretty quick?
No,
did you go working for the same people then, or
no?
You crossed paths once or twice.
Yeah. Like I had my job arranged before the leaving search was done. I think you were the similar.
Same, yeah.
Straight in, like I said, had the leaving cert results in the hand, into the mother's hand, like when I was started already. Like,
I think we both finished on, say, the Friday and started the Monday, like, so.
Right, okay, that's
so quick, literally straight into it, like.
Right. Yeah. Did you know someone to get the
my dad is would be in the fire service, like, retained, so like part-time, and his buddy would have had a company out of Skerries.
Okay.
Funnily enough, I started working for him again, subcontracting this year, so like started out with him, and now I'm actually doing, he's in construction now, Brannock Construction.
Full circle.
So I'm doing the electrical work for the guy that gave me my start, which is kind of pinch me moment, like,
yeah, it's good,
I was my mother just, you know, asked one of the uncles, like, he knew he was working cranes on a site, like, and just like, is there anybody going? He said, here's a contact number, get Stephen to ring him. So straight on the phone, straight on the blower to them, and up, interview the next morning, had a start, like. So
was it were you both on your own, or was it with apprentices when you started your apprentice?
I started out domestic, so I was with one guy.
Okay.
And then transferred then into big sites. So I got a bit of a blend of both, like.
Right.
Which then when you get to a certain point, you'd have, if I was third year, you'd have other apprentices underneath you then, and it's quite similar, like, to the domestic part of it. It's when you go from domestic to any type of industrial site, it's all small teams, like. So you'd meet up in the cabin in the morning.
Yeah.
And you'd have a team of maybe 4 lads and another team of 4 lads, and it'd be all different parts of the building you'd have to go to. So it'll be highest rank. And actually, funny enough, like, some of the bigger jobs I worked on, some of the lower rank guys who were better than the higher rank guys would be given lead. You know what I mean? And that could cause a bit of friction. But
we worked on sites where, with the one site we did work together, our lead foreman was like living on his sister's couch and was like a chronic alcoholic, like, and we were pulling the job together, you know what I mean? We won't mention names, but you know who you are.
Yeah, it happens. It does happen, like, you know what I mean, where you have to, as an apprentice, like, pull rank, like, because you can see the job needs to be done either way, and
or someone's next on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
I was an apprentice plumber for, like, I didn't last long, right? I didn't enjoy it, but I felt like because I was an apprentice, I was on my own, right? And I was like, I felt like I was a bit lonely, right? But then when I went to the army, right, when something went wrong, everyone got on the neck, and I was like, oh, it's kind of grand here. The heat's not all on me. Whereas when I was an apprentice, like, if someone did something, it's like, what is that like that? Pick that up or whatever, and you're kind of lonely in a sense, like. Yeah. So I found that hard, and then when I went to the army, everyone was together, so it was a bit.
It's an interesting one, that, like, because I think I craved the group setting.
Yeah.
At an earlier age. And I think it
might be
the bit of support, like, that you want around you, like, you know what I mean? But the older I've got now, and with the company that I'm with now, I'm in the van, so the van's my office. Right. So I wake up in the morning, I'm on my own, so I could be driving from here to Wexford or here to Galway or Cavan every day. You'd be on your own, and I think that's where the podcasting comes into it as well, because you can stick on the radio now you can hear a similar voice, like, from an industry that's the same as yours. So it's like sitting, you know, at break time with another lads, like, hearing the conversation when you're on your own, like. So I think that's one of the things that we try to utilize with the podcast, you know.
Yeah, because I think, like, a young lad, again, like, coming out of school, going one-on-one with a tradesman. Yeah, I think that would be quite lonely for a young lad, like a 16-year-old. I think you'd probably need that group.
Yeah, you have to have the right lad, definitely. Yeah, like, I would have been opposite to you maybe when I started with the first employer. We would have been doing housing estates, so there would have been maybe 2 or 3 of us apprentices thrown into a house to drill holes and get routes ready. So we would have been kind of a team and accountable for that part of the job. Right. And then, like, when I changed company, then I started with a kind of an older electrician, like he was in his 60s, like, you know, he was nearing retirement, but I learned a lot from him. I want to give him a shout, Eric Griffin from Balbriggan. Like he's died since, but what a lovely man. Like, but he was the type that would throw you in the deep end. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So he would, you know, we'd be walking through the housing estate, a completed part of the housing estate, and he'd throw you like maybe an RCBO, like a breaker. I'd say go into Mary there, and he'd sit on the wall having a cup of tea and get you to go in and change it. Like, so it's literally throwing you in the deep end, something you've never done. He's just like, give us a shout there if you're stuck, you know. She knows you're coming, like, and I'd be in there for like an hour sweating trying to get it done. But it's literally, it's the yin and the yang of it. I think you have to be shown a bit of trust, even from. But like what you said there with the if you're going around with a tradesperson or fully qualified and they're not the right, I've had. In the same company, I actually worked for another fella that like threatened to box the head of me one day.
Yeah.
And like it was because I didn't follow a list from 1 to 10. I kind of went 1 to 4 to 6 to 8. And he came back and said, like, why have you not got that done? And I said, oh, well, look, I was in this room. 3, 4, and 5 were in this room, so I said I'd stay here and finish this room.
Yeah.
And he's like dropped the tools and squared up to me, like, and this a lad that's like 20 years older than me, like, was
that was a common 18. Thing, like the culture on the
culture has changed, or is it still the same?
I'm hoping it's changed.
I think it's changed.
It's definitely like a lot of the generation of electricians that are mine and Keith's age now in their 30s, like, would have went through a horrible culture.
Right.
And I would have been on a lot of sites. When I was starting out, like, where the culture was toxic, like really toxic. And I know lads like that were on them jobs with me, big industrial jobs, like, and the culture was so bad, like, that they ended up leaving their apprenticeship, like. And I still talk to them to this day, like, and they were good lads with a good, like, I think expectation of what they could be within the trades, and it was knocked out of them, like, through bad culture. And few examples of, like, similar to Keith, like, we'd be on site as apprentices and lunchtime was fight time, you know. So you'd be locked in a room and all the apprentices would have to fight each other in the room, like, and all the qualified sparks would be putting money in, like, to see who'd come out, like, you know what I mean? That's one part. Other guys were getting locked in job boxes, you know, for 8 hours, like 8 hours in a job box, and that's one of the guys, like,
or taped to poles.
Yeah, like, I know a guy, like, he was he actually got the job through his father knowing the owner of the business, and eventually he was so afraid to go to site that he'd say goodbye to his father in the morning and hop the wall and go back into his garden and hide in the shed all day. And his father thought he was going off the 8 hours in work, like, because he was getting such abuse on site, like. I still speak to him today, like, he sees that we do the podcast, like, and he's sort of, you know, happy that we're sort of speaking up and talking about these type of things now, because it does change that culture now, where I think the stuff that we went through is we have the same mentality now, where, you know, treat people how you would like to be treated, but also treat people differently to how we were treated, because that sticks with you and it knocks you, and it gives you this anxiety then when you're going up through your apprenticeship then as well, like, that when, you know, you're expected to go and speak to, you know, foremen or engineers or architects, you know, and you're being knocked down by your lead electrician on site, like. It gives you that anxiety then to be able to actually go out and puff your chest out and speak to people, you know what I mean? So you're trying to build these individuals up, like, and Keith's trying to build his apprentices up to be little soldiers of you know, his mentality. And if you provide that mentality of support and belief and encouragement, that's going to be instilled within them, and then when they then have to train the next apprentices that's coming underneath them, they're going to instill that same ethos onto the next ones coming up, which creates a good business. But I believe it stems from the top, like. So if you have somebody at the top of a business allowing toxic behavior to go on, it's going to filter down through everybody, and then, you know, you'll either get the people leaving their apprenticeship or you'll get good guys leaving your company, and it's not beneficial for anybody, you know.
No. One thing I would say about apprentices and the apprenticeship cycle, you've only 4 years to do, 4 or 5 years, maybe 5 if you're unlucky. But back in the day, I just remember doing my apprenticeship. He was probably the same. My one goal was to be the best apprentice my boss had. I wanted my boss to love me for 4 years, you know what I mean? And I think that's gone a little bit out of trades. I think to be the best you can be, you need to have your boss love you. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of apprentices now that are more focused on, you know, did I get paid on my overtime? Am I on the right money? Like, you know, am I getting this? Am I getting that?
Right.
I think you just need to hyper focus on getting your apprenticeship done and not bound to your boss, but like being the best apprentice you can be for your boss. If you know what I mean.
And you probably learn more then.
You learn more and you get more. You get like it just comes hand in hand. Like, you know what I mean. Right. A lot of apprentices now would be maybe a little bit too outspoken. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Get your time done and then have the chats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be my big thing about apprentices. I think, like, obviously mistreating apprentices, that doesn't happen anymore. So you can rule that out. So I think the next thing to do is get the time done and be the best that you can be and forget about the external noise.
Right. And then the money will follow.
There's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said as well, like for the type of individuals that you're hiring, like, because as like, even with, like, I'm an employee but I'm principal duty holder of the company that I work with, like, so I would be over the electrical side of the business. So anybody that's coming through, like, will have to link through me, like, and give me their details, and I'll have to, like, sort them out through Safe Electric and the likes.
Right.
So it's at a higher level there where you're doing, say, like, hiring.
Yeah.
But with Keith, like, I think it's more critical to hire the right individual.
100%.
Because if you make that mistake, like, that's months lost on somebody.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to go through the whole process again. And for, like, a self-employed, you know, trader, it's a disaster if it goes wrong.
You wouldn't believe the stories, like, literally there's so many bad guys out there, like, and most of them, I'll be honest, are the fully qualified lads, you know, where the money has changed them, like, you know what I mean. Right. Apprentices you can get right, you know. You nearly know, like, you can breed the culture into them.
Is it better to breed your own, right? As an electrical business owner, it's better to breed your own than kind of take in guys.
I figured that out over that. Like, I'm in business 4 years now,
right?
But definitely the best guys I have are the apprentices that I've had from the start.
Yeah.
How long would you know after hiring a guy? How long would you know that he's good?
You probably know within 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Everyone, like, you know, does their best for 2 weeks. And then after that, things start to slip, like, you know.
Yeah, I think within 3
months. And you need like, I've learned literally the hard way, like, putting systems in place, like, contracts are critical. Yeah. Lads, like where I went out on my own, I was literally on my own. My missus did a bit of work for me on the side, like the admin and stuff like that, but we weren't on top of getting the contracts done and, you know, the workplace statement method statements and all that kind of stuff. But we have all that in place now. So we take someone on, like, there'd be a van policy, PPE policy, you know, on site, you know, behavior policies. We have everything now. Where I didn't at the start, and it got burned basically. Yeah. With a couple of fellas, like, you know, just taking the mick, like, you know.
What's the main thing you're looking for, right? If you're hiring an apprentice, like, what are you looking for? Or what do you want to see even on the CV, or is a CV even important?
I'd like to see a CV. Some lads don't even send a CV.
Yeah.
Some lads, like, I get bombarded with like, because we're, like, since we started the podcast, like, part of my thing was I wanted to grow the social media side of it.
Yeah.
Because I was, like, solely focused on the work element of it. But Instagram and, you know, Facebook just saying, can I have a job, please? And I'm like, send me something, like, you know.
Yeah.
And lads are sending you stuff where I understand it's hard for young people, don't really get jobs anymore. But anything to say that, I worked with my Uncle Jack doing a bit of construction where I've seen an electrician working and, like, really liked what I seen there.
Okay.
Really want to do that. Like, it's just something that's gonna catch the imagination of the employer to say.
There's a lot of individuals. I mean, no, you're 100%. Like, you were just mentioning there, social media, like, and people having their Instagrams. Like, people believe, like, or they want to portray the fact that Instagram is your digital CV now, just because you set up a page, like, and it says Joe Blogs Electrical on it, and you've got a bit of you know, sockets installations and light installations on it. I mean, Keith and myself could go on to, you know, copy and paste of those pages over and over and over again. But like he said, to have somebody make the effort to put a little bit about themselves down on a page.
Right, so a little bit of a, even if it's not a CV, some kind of like cover letter.
Some cover letter to say why you're interested and stuff. But like the other side of that is like if they're contacting you through Instagram, they're probably following you. They're probably looking at the work. They're probably are interested. Like So maybe the thing from us is like why do you want to work for us?
Yeah.
We come back and say, well, what can you offer us? What do you think you can do with us? Like what's your plan like?
Yeah. I think the thing is like when people are looking for jobs, they always look at like what's in it for them, which is fine, right? Because it has to be a mutual relationship, but it should be like what value can you provide to my company?
Yeah.
And if they can demonstrate that value that they can provide, then it's a fair kind of relationship, because it's a business relationship at the end of the day, like employee business relationship. But it has to be fair on both sides for each one.
But you have a lot of people now like not even bothering to do the face-to-face interviews anymore. You know what I mean? Which I think is crazy, like, because like to get sitting down with somebody and you know, get in a room with somebody and
you have to
talk to them. I think within 30 seconds you can get a vibe off somebody about, you know, if they're decent or not, you know?
Yeah.
If that's why I that's where I kind of slacked a little bit when I took on a couple of contracts. I was like, I needed lads, just needed them quick, and probably a mistake on my part, but like just talking to lads on the phone where I didn't meet them, you know what I mean?
Oh, really? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because on the phone, everyone's going to tell you like, geez, I'm brilliant and all, like, and there should be alarm bells ringing when they're kind of not working for someone when it's in such a busy period where it's hard to actually find lads. So if you're finding a lad and he hasn't worked maybe in a couple of months, you're kind of, alarm bell should be ringing saying, well, why is this lad, has this lad not been working? Like,
was it a hard jump for you going from like employee to entrepreneur? Like, why did you decide to go out on your own?
Well, I was working for a fella and for about 10 years, and he was the same as I am now, where he was on his own, and then I came on board with him, and then the company just grew, and I was kind of I was a senior electrician within the company anyway,
right?
And then there was just like, there was a few things like we ended well. Like I gave him like 10 weeks,
that's
notice and stuff like that. So it ended well, but I always knew that I probably about 5 or 6 years too late. Do you know what I mean? But made the jump in the end. What it was two building contractors came to me and just said, now they had nothing to do with the lad that I was working for. They were just friends that became construction or had their own companies, and just said, look, we've got 4 or 5 jobs coming up. They're yours if you want. Like I would have had a kind of a good reputation as being a decent electrician anyway.
Right.
So it was just me taking the step from being an employee to an employer, which was hard on the business side of it, as most lads find out the hard way, you know.
So 4 years in business, right?
4 years.
How long did it take you to kind of get all the business stuff under wraps and kind of learn it?
I'm still learning it now.
Yeah.
My better half, my wife Jen, she worked with a property management company like that managed a lot of like apartment blocks and different contracts and and the ins and out of the admin and payroll and stuff like that. So I had it ready made. She's like technically a bookkeeper as well. So I cut out all them expenses by having Jen with me, like, you know. Nice. So my missus just gives the stuff to the accountant, and there's never usually back and forward. So she's 50-50 with me, and she's probably the better, you know, the better. She's probably 60-40, you know.
So.
But no, it was tough. Like the money side of it is it's quite stressful. Like work, I was always able to do the work. Like always like we were saying earlier, like I could learn most things and retain it and pass the knowledge on to someone else. Steve, we work together as well. Like you kind of. We'd be both fine on that end of it, but it's the business side of it is a bit daunting.
Tough, because this is my 5th year in business myself, right? But like I feel like this is my 4th year in business, because all the 4 or 5 years of lessons are now only being implemented into the business now. Like, but that's like the back end stuff, like the operations end of it. But I can do the job, right? But it's like getting the other stuff sorted out, and then it's a pain in the neck. So you're trying to work on the business and work in the business at the same time. It can be hard.
Oh, it's mental. Like, and like. Most people don't see it, like even the apprentices and stuff like that. Like you're going home at 5 o'clock, and you could be on the computer till 11 o'clock,
12,
maybe 4 nights a week, like, and then taking weekend calls and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But I think after maybe 2-3 years, I become a little bit I don't know, aware of what I should be doing and not doing. You know, I'd be a yes man to most people. Like even through my apprenticeship.
That's why I asked him to do the podcast.
He couldn't say no.
I don't know why you even asked. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like that's the way I kind of I try anything once. You know what I mean? And if I like it, I'll keep doing it. But yeah, like in terms of, you probably know yourself now, you can have awkward customers or clients, and I kind of just, I can kind of handpick some now, like, and if some new ones come on board, if I feel like they're not gonna pay or they're not meeting deadlines, I kind of move on to the next one, because I think our work is good, and the lads I have are all, the lads we have now are brilliant. Like, there's no problem employees anymore. Them lads are all gone. So like you said, I think it just takes the 3 years to, like, what's
it's
the
almost
statistic?
an apprenticeship in itself, like.
I think, what's the statistic, like, most businesses failing in 2-3 years or something.
And only a certain percent get past the 5-year mark. So like we're like, you know, in that mark now, like we're moving through, but like it's like all them lessons that have been learned, all the mistakes that have been made, nearly sunk us, didn't sink us, and we're kind of on the rise again, right? So
you're kind of bobbing, aren't you, for a couple of years.
It's a roller coaster. It's the best way to describe it.
Well, just keep getting paid every month, lad.
But business wasn't on the cards for you, was it? Like, going out on your own is not on the cards for you. It just...
No, I don't. I never foreseen myself as a business owner.
Yeah.
And that's probably because from an early age, I'd get hyper focused on things,
right,
and it would take over my whole life.
Yeah, where I can drift.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah.
So it's,
I
would bring that stress. Like I've seen it from Keith's end now, and I would see that if I was to get into a role, I would not be able to switch off.
Yeah.
At the end of that day, and that would be, I think, dangerous mentally for me if I was to do that. Like, so. Yeah. I'm very well focused to be able to get up in the morning and open up a PDA on my phone and have jobs there ready for me to go.
Okay.
And I can see them out there, and I know that's going to take me this long, that's going to take me that long. And then when it hits this hour of the day, I'm signing off.
Done.
And I'm done and I'm gone. And then that focus then changes to the podcast.
Right.
And then that starts all again, you know.
Don't forget your family.
I'm talking about the hour between that and the home. When I got home, actually, in fairness, the family aspect of it is another thing. Obviously, Keith opened up there about Jen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed yourself, there's a lot of hours that go into the podcast and the editing and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah.
So to have a supporting family behind you, my wife Denise and stuff, and she'd sit there and she'd watch me editing and posting stuff up, and I'd be running things by her, you know.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot to be said for the women in your life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. My missus actually does the shorts.
Does
she watches back the video and then cut up the shorts. Yes.
Good honest reviews on them as well, you know.
Yeah. But and like, not everybody has to be an entrepreneur, right? Like, I think there's always a big push, like, oh, you get a trade, start a business, do well, right? The stress is not always worth it, right? No. And there's a lot to be said going into like a well-paid job, taking your wages and having a weekend to yourself unless you work the weekends, right? But is that like do you think you'll ever like look at business, or like you're 100% not going into it? Like, I know I'm asking you.
Maybe through the podcast, and I think.
Okay. Do you think you go full time into the podcast?
I think if there was an opportunity for it to grow, I would look at it.
Right.
Because I think maybe I have basically a passion for something. I have a passion for something that I didn't know I had a passion for. Mm-hmm. And that I think potentially, if I knew that I had this passion when I was in school, I don't know if I would have done electrical. Right. I think I might have went down the route of media. Oh, really? And only doing the podcasting now, I sort of opened my eyes up to that.
Yeah.
Because I love it.
Okay.
I love the editing. I love the production. I love the creating. I love the planning out questions and linking in with guests, and it's.
Would you be a creative kind of person, or a creative kind of mindset?
Yeah, it's just it's opened up a new spark in me now. That's
pun intended.
Yeah. No pun intended. Actually,
for our own podcast.
But it's made me reflect. I've reflected some nights now, thinking like, have I actually missed out on a career within something? But
at the recruitment apprenticeship.
But at the other end of it, you know, it's great to be able to say that you've got something.
Yeah.
You know, like an inception of something at the age of 36, 37, and you're saying to yourself, Jesus Christ,
something new.
There's something new. where, you know, you could be coming into the latter end of your career and thinking, I'm just going to keep plugging away here what I'm doing, and it's just going to become monotonous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was always the type, like, I didn't go down the standard route within my career. I was always the type to try to, like he said, excel within any business that I went into and make a name for myself. I didn't never wanted to be just a number within any company that I've joined.
Okay.
So, like, I done 5 to 6 years out on a semiconductor site out in Kildare and with a company in there, and, you know, pushed myself to, you know, getting lead every time. So that was my goal every time. Whatever company I'm going into, I want to be lead of whatever team.
Okay.
Which I did. So I'd get to that point within any company that I worked with, and I'd be posting up on Instagram a lot of times, like, with Keith, you know, like, this award I'd get, you know, like safety awards and the likes, and
right.
he'd be there saying, like, you know, you got to stop posting them things, like, you're making me look bad or whatever. Yeah, but that was my goal. I always wanted to excel, and like what Keith was saying, make my managers love me and be indispensable, because the company I'm working in now, when COVID hit, a lot of people panicked.
Yeah.
I didn't panic once. I didn't panic at all, because I knew that I'd reached a point within the business that I was needed, I was wanted. Clients were ringing to say, can Stephen come out to site? Right. So when you're at that level, you work hard to get to that level.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my hard work and determination that's got me to that point. So when COVID hit and everybody around me was panicking, like saying, do you think they're all going to start letting people go here? And so, you know, you'd maybe agree with them. So, geez, yes, you know. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I've worked hard enough here now, like, to instill my place within the business. And that's my mindset with any company that I go to, is just to reach that point to be indispensable.
Go above and beyond.
Well, that's the say, isn't it? Like, put in the work and the work will take care of itself. So your work obviously speaks volumes.
Yeah. And that's, I think, with anybody that's looking to get in any business, look, if people just want the wage at the end of the week or the end of the month or fortnightly or whatever it is, so you can go and spend it on something else that you love to do, that's you. Like, I mean, there's no problem with that. Like, but if you're on the mindset of, you know, going that extra mile, being somebody who, you know, will do the night shift if you have to do the night shift, or, you know, work out of hours when it's needed, or, you know, pick up the phone out of hours as well, like, just, you know, to answer a phone call to a manager who might just need an answer to a question, you know, I'll do that, like, because I have the love for the industry that I'm in, and I have the respect for the likes of the managers and the supervisors that I work with, and to be able to put yourself in their shoes and see the stresses that they go through.
Right.
If I'm able to relieve a little bit of that stress off a manager's shoulders by picking up the phone out of hours for 10-15 minutes and having a chat with somebody or talking them through something, you'll do that.
Yeah.
Where you'll have other individuals who are just like, I'm finished at 4 o'clock, I'm done, the phone's turned off, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot to be said for it. Now, I wouldn't knock anybody that turns the phone off and does it, because that's them, and mentally they might need to, you know, switch off at the end of the day. But, you know, there's a lot to be said for going that extra mile, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, right, as a trade, right, you don't stay on the one site forever. Like, you're kind of moving around, unless you go into facilities or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But is that frustrating, like, when you're an apprentice, like, to be moving to the different sites? Or did you kind of just take it in your stride? Or is it good because you get different variations of different things?
Different sites.
Yeah. I remember, like, before I had the car, you know, and you were going, that was the biggest part of it. Buses. You know, when you were going bussing and training everywhere. And I think a lot of my sites at the start would have been Dublin City Centre sites and Hout. So I used to be going between Dublin City Centre and Hout. So I used to be out to Hout Junction in the morning, and you'd be finishing up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, getting the dart back to Hout Junction and then back to Balbriggan. So I think getting the mindset behind getting your driving license and getting a vehicle changes it completely, because it makes things 10 times easier. And I think the moving between sites then doesn't seem as harsh as it would when you're trying to hoard a load of tools onto public transport, you know.
It's a nightmare.
My lads have it easy. They get picked up at their front gate. So if any of you are listening,
it's one of the perks of the job, right?
Yeah, it's one of the perks of their job. Yeah, they don't have to get trains and stuff like that. So that's the other thing with industrial sites, like, you know what I mean, you don't have that personal touch, you know what I mean. You have to You have to travel. Public transport to get to these big sites. You know what I mean?
Do you find yourself in like over some young lad's bed saying, "Hey, get up! It's time to go to work"?
Never usually have. I have knocked the door once or twice. You know what I mean? But like in general, most of the lads are grand. Timekeeping's good. That's what I was saying. We weeded out the lads, the problematic lads.
Yeah, that super frustrates me. Like if someone's like constantly 10, 15 minutes late.
Yeah, we're north side or as north as you can go in Dublin. Like, but most of our jobs are south side as south as you can go. So if you're 15 minutes, 20 minutes late, and the lads out beeping the horn, traffic, you're losing an hour. Like,
I used to get the first train in the morning. Was the first train in, even if that got you in
6:15 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, but it get you into town, like you could be in there an hour sometimes before the site starts, like.
Yeah.
But you're in there and you know you're there, like, I mean, there's nothing worse than, you know, getting the train that you think will get you there in time and being late and have to explain it, like. So I think it might have been into my second phase I got the Fiat Punto.
Right, you got the license straight away.
Got the license, got the Fiat Punto, and driving around, I thought it was amazing, you know what I mean? You'd be driving to site, like, but there's a lot to be said for, you know, having that independence then as well, like,
it's the key to freedom, having the driving license. I think it's actually, you should leave, if you do your leaving cert, you should get your driving license while you're still in school.
They're actually starting to do that. So my son was in TY, and they're doing driving lessons in Mondello,
Really?
Now, from the stories I heard, more like Colin McRae. Where the lads are all on TikTok taking videos and taking the piss out of instructors and stuff. But look, it's I think they're starting to breed it in, and they're starting to do so most of the driving lessons or the theory tests are online now, so you can pay a tenner and you can.
But then there's the other side of it as well. So you see, if guys there that, you know, need to utilize the driving for their careers, like, so it's the apprentices that need the driving. So I think, what is it now? So you go and you do your theory test. After you do your theory test, you have to do your 12 lessons. Then after your very last 12 lesson, you have to wait 6 months then before you're allowed to do your full test. And there's already a waiting time already for the full test. So you're looking, you know, up to a year maybe, like, before you get any type of look in to actually do your full driving test. Yeah. Which is crazy for an apprentice, you know?
You're a novice.
You're a novice driver,
so you're not putting, you know, for any apprentice that's, you know, looking to, I suppose, get the independence and like their boss to put them in a van. They're gonna need to start driving early. Like, I've an apprentice there that's like really good and he's really excelling, but he doesn't drive. You know what I mean? And I'm just like,
it's probably holding him back.
Yeah, it might hold him back in a few years. You know what I mean? And it might be the difference between getting a good job and not having a good job, or the extra money. You know,
the difference is 10 grand in having a driving license. Like I say all the time, like they'll need like someone to work in like a pharmaceutical plant, but be able to drive the van, or if a part needs to be delivered or taken from a supplier's, to have to jump into the van, go get it, or deliver it. The difference in salary is like 10 grand. So that's a big jump.
That's a good incentive to get going, isn't
it? And you have to have it like going in. Like no one's going to pay. Oh, I'm going to get it in a few months. You have to have it.
Yeah. Like, it's one of the tick the boxes, isn't it? Have you got a driving license?
Yeah, if you don't have it, because people do lose out on opportunity. But all through your career then, right, have you had to do like different courses to upskill after the apprenticeship then, or like is that it then you're kind of doing, or different suppliers kind of train you in different parts? Or?
It's kind of endless. Like Stevens, he probably has more than what I'd have. Right. Like we used to do test and inspection. If you're going to be you know, self-employed as a registered electrical contractor, you have to go down the route of getting inspected by them. So you have to get 2 inspections your first year, so that's like an on-site where they come and they forensically look through an install. Like, but you're fine if you're anyway decent. You'll be fine. They're very easy to deal with. So test and inspection, you have to have that before you can even register to be with them. So
and that doesn't end at self-employment either. Like, so even with a business like ours, like if we want any electricians within the company, you can be a qualified electrician. You can come out with your national craft certificate and your card. You're a qualified electrician. But if you are to be working on any fuse board, or making any changes to any circuits, or adding additional circuits to any job, you have to have that QC number, which is your testing and inspection. And not everybody has it. So there's probably thousands of electricians out there that don't have it. You know what I mean? And like, so you, like Davy, you will be the PDH, so Keith will be the PDH of his company. You'll have that QC number. Doesn't mean that everybody underneath you has to have it, but you would then have to stand over that
You
work.
sign off the
you
work,
know?
basically.
Yeah,
exactly.
So like it's crazy to think that like you wouldn't want to get to that level. You know what I mean?
And like what you said, it's a difference in salary then if you have it as well. And then for us then, like the solar and renewables, so micro generation. If you want to go into that, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Like, you know what I mean? So that's what I'd have, not what I'd need. But I'd like to further and go into like security and stuff like that. Once you're an electrician, I think you can
put your hand.
You can like the facilities and stuff. Like the first thing that like we'd push people in towards would be emergency lighting testing.
Right.
So you can be within that. You've got the fire alarm.
Okay.
Thermal imaging. So it's thermal imaging as well. So you can go out and do thermal imaging tests on distribution boards and stuff as well.
Design as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's endless courses if you really want to look for something to better yourself, and like that's just another string to your bow. You know what I mean?
And is it the more you earn, or sorry, the more you learn, the more you earn, kind of thing? Like, will if you go out and do a course off your own back, and the company utilize that, will they pay extra to utilize it, or?
Yeah, well, ours will. If we, Mitie Facilities Management is who I work for, and what they do is, if you can produce enough information on the course, like to prove to them that it would be beneficial to them to utilize you then on site with that, or you have the potential then to start offering planned preventative maintenance off the back of that.
Right.
It's an opportunity for them to make money. So yeah, they will pay more, incentivize you to get it. But usually,
will they cover the cost of learning then as well?
Cover the cost of learning, and
you've been put through a lot of courses,
you'll do a lot of that. Like you'll sign up to where if you leave within the 2 years, you'll have to pay it back. Like,
okay, it's fair enough.
It's fair enough. Like, but like that as well. I think to see that positive, aspect within a company where they're willing to invest in you, I think is just another incentivization to anybody that's being hired then down the line to say, look, this company, if I produce for them, that they're willing to back me then to better myself. And look down the line, if you were to leave and go and use that elsewhere, it's always with you. It's with your name, you know what I mean? It's not with the company's name.
So even in terms of Mitie, your company, they were kind of our first unofficial sponsor of our podcast. Right. So they kitted us out with all our mics and roadcaster and stuff like that. So so nothing says you're doing a good job by getting backed like that. It's something that's not really enhancing their business model or anything. Like, it's just literally you're a good employee to us. We're going to give back, like,
after you. You just have got a good few sponsors now. Was it hard to get them on board, or did they approach you? Did you approach them, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, we never sort of we never looked for originally starting, so we would have just continued going the way we were going.
Yeah.
Because we would never have had the knowledge on sponsorship or how that worked.
Right.
But what we would have had is a lot of brands within the industry that Keith would use and I would use, being interested in the podcast because there was nobody really doing something similar within Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
And you'd have them reaching out to us at the start, so they would have sent us a lot of care boxes at the start, which would have provided us with lights or t-shirts, hats and mugs and everything else. And the way we sort of looked at it is right, Keith would use a distribution board company called Hager a lot, and he would have used a lot of the lights, Robus, and I would have used a lot of the lights and Robus in my content. So they would have reached out to us at the start, and what we started doing was just promoting it through the page, not looking for any money or anything like that. Just to say that we've got the backing and the support of these brands.
What's the saying? You fake it till you make it type thing. Yeah. So we were saying, and with permission, we were saying, like, thanks very much for the care package. Do you mind if we say that this episode is come to you sponsored by Robus Lighting? Okay. And they were like, work away, Jesus. Like it was. So the next we didn't really understand the cogs of it and how us saying that was like actually promoting them. And as you see, Stephen posts a lot. Yeah. And like their logos are there, and it's being farmed out to thousands of people on different platforms.
It's a sales machine for their business, though, as well. Yeah, so it makes sense.
The fake it till you make it thing, it was interesting to us, because it's such it's a bit of a dirty concept, but at the same time, it's something that I think if you look at any type of business or entrepreneur, you're never gonna really show what your goings on behind the business is, like at the start, like, you know what I mean, to get you to where you need to get to. But for us to be able to say to the likes of Robus or Hager, or there was other workwear brands and everything all reaching out to us, like offering us stuff, and all we'd say to them was, do you mind if we say that this episode or this segment was sponsored by you because you've given us this stuff? And they were happy to do that. And like he said, once they were happy to do that, the next company then was looking, saying, well, Jesus, Robus sponsored their episode last week, Hager sponsored this one the next week, can we do the next one? So there's more interest in just developing from that. And eventually then Robus, who are now our main sponsors, jumped on board as main sponsors and wanted to officially sponsor the podcast, which for us was amazing, because it opened up so many doors for us between here and the UK, because they have so many contacts when it comes to guests and everything else with it, you know.
Yeah, because people are flying in from the UK to do your podcast, right?
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
And that's a lot of that is, some people do it off their own backs, but the majority probably on the back of being invited by Robus to their HQ, and then obviously tying in with us then.
Right.
So it's
a whole experience as well, coming on the podcast, shift the game and stuff. Is it?
But they're great for that, you see, because what they said to us when I think we got the first batch of sponsorship was, what do you want, like, and so we wanted a bit more recording equipment, and we were a studio, so we asked them, could the studio be built in their headquarters, which they built for us. And once they done that for us, you know, the CEO Mick Schleen, like, was, lads, look, if you're bringing lads in here, use an arm or a branch of us now, like, so show them a good time when they're here, like, you know what I mean? So when they arrive on site for any interview, we bring them up to the visitor centre, we show them around the visitor centre, give them a quick tour. Pint of Guinness.
Yeah, they have
a little tap there. They've got our logo on the little scanner on top, so it goes on top of the pint, and they've got a car simulator there, a race simulator. So yeah, just for us, what that does as well is it brings it up, it relaxes people beforehand. And what we nearly do is we nearly have the whole interview done upstairs. Because we've talked to them for half an hour. Yeah. And
just regurgitate
it out, like, you know what I mean? And it's just for them, like you said, you can leave them with a bit of an experience then, where they can go and tell the next person, just them lads are doing it a bit different, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think I said yesterday, I was like, I'm a bit worried now. It's just, you just come in and see me at the door, and we'll come downstairs and have a chat.
Yeah, you even offered to buy us lunch and everything. Jesus, like,
we done it enough, like,
we understand that, like, we understand that it's not a normal thing.
No,
because of their facility, it's not us doing it. Like, it's the facility that they have.
We were inviting guests into offices before that, like, you know what I mean?
So it was.
I was doing interviews in vans.
Yeah, no, I remember watching this one the other day. I think I was on to you, like, I think I was in, like, episode, like, 25 or something.
That's right, yeah. We were just,
what's happening? You coming on? But, like, I stopped as well for a little bit. Like, business took over. And,
we were just we were deep in it at that stage, like. But, like, I was driving around to building sites, like, and meeting people, and they were jumping in the vans, and we were doing interviews in the vans.
Shady interviews.
It's crazy. I mean, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, but now if people want to find you, right, where can they find you if they don't already know who you are?
So we're on all podcasting platforms. So you can find, we're mostly active on Instagram,
right,
at Insight the Strip Back Podcast. We're on TikTok with the same. We're on LinkedIn with the same.
Right.
YouTube channel with the same. And if you meet us out on the street, we've got a couple of cards that we carry on us all the time through Jordan Darg, and he's provided us with tap cards as well. So if you meet us, come up to us,
just tap you.
We'll tap the card, and all our details will be on the will be on your phone.
And what about if people need mixers? Can they do the same thing?
Contact my lads. You'll find them in our followers anyway.
We'll contact him through Energise Electrical.
That's your business, eh?
Yeah, no mixers though.
No mixers.
Energise Electrical Contractors.
And that's like car chargers and solar, is it? Or?
Car chargers, solar, new rewires, anything really electrical. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. That's a wrap, lads. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks
very much, lads.
Thank you.
A special thanks to Keith and Stephen for coming into the studio today. If you'd like to find out more about their podcast or Keith's business, the links will be in the description below. If you enjoyed the episode, if you give it a like or subscribe, that'd be great. Thank you.